Do you have any specific advice for anyone who's been furloughed?
If you've been furloughed, use this time. Use this time. So use this time to, so one thing is, sharpen up your CV, because you don't know. I mean, actually, even if you haven't been furloughed, there's some uncertainty. But if you've been furloughed, you have time. So don't sort of deal with this space and this time by just relaxing. Take a break. Make sure you're in a good place in terms of your own mental health and well-being. That comes before anything else. You cannot do any of the other things if you're not in a good place. If you're not in a good place, stop everything, get in a good place. But once you've done that, sharpen up that CV, start looking at what have been the times in my career, the times recently where I have felt most passionate, I've been adding the most value, start reflecting on those, and just position yourself either to come back into your organization and hit the ground running, or to consider what your options are. You sort of need to, what I call, date multiple futures at the same time, so that you know that you have some assurance that you could handle whatever comes next.
Great. I'm going to merge two into one with this one. How were you able to recognize your readiness to break off and start your own venture? When you did break off, do you wish that you started sooner? And what was it like mobilizing the funds for that journey?
So I wouldn't have started my own thing if it was already out there. So starting my own thing wasn't motivated by a burning desire to be an entrepreneur. It was motivated by a passion for something that was missing in the world that had to be in the world. And if you have the desire to be an entrepreneur, you can probably be a great entrepreneur, but also make sure you're really tapping into what is the thing. I see a lot of people starting businesses for things that are already out there and that, would be nice to do. Feel free to start that too, but I wouldn't leave your day job for that one necessarily. This is my opinion. Find the thing that is needed right now. What is needed right now, and what do you feel passionate about? If you feel passionate enough about it, at that point, you can start really having a vision of something that is different. Because being visionary, and standing out is very important in a market that's saturated with lots of ideas. Could I have started my thing sooner? I don't think so. I mean, I could have. Would I have been successful? I don't think so, because I needed to have that passion get to a certain peak where I just could not do anything else other than that thing, or I had to try it. And I left a job, a 6-figure job. I was in an apartment looking over the Empire State Building, doing quite well. Thank you very much. To come and live in a shared house and do a master's degree and hold on to my money so that I could self-fund that starting point. And so I made sacrifice. I would not have been ready to sacrifice in the way that's required for many versions of entrepreneurship if I didn't have that passion at the right point.
Okay, great. Can you explain to the audience what the walking the tightrope experience is?
So we have a program, Walk the Tightrope, but actually it's part of a larger movement. And it's a movement of leadership where you are both sort of embodying, one way of putting it is embodying the masculine and the feminine, the long term, the short term. I mean, all of you might relate to the idea of being in a political environment where there are survival skills that you need. And I think that when people say you should just be caring and warm and nice, they miss out on the fact that you might feel surrounded by sharks, or you might have real ambitions that you shouldn't not be able to have. They can be very important. I know that all of my family, but my Ghanaian family has very clear ambitions that were made crystal clear from the beginning of my life. So I think it's important to understand your survival needs, constraints, honor them, but at the same time, understand how you build good relationships, how you stay authentic to yourself, how you tune in to and become in touch with your intuition. And these two things can often feel like a conflict, one or the other. Walking the tightrope is a journey of leadership that allows you to find the balance between these two sides. So you can be assertive, but you can be kind. How? What's the version for you? And it also helps you discover your leadership signature and your journey as a change maker. So you become much more effective. So it's about navigating your career, being able to lead people who actually want to follow you, especially when it's virtual and you can't look over their shoulder. And also being able to really create a game-changing difference. And so that is the movement, but we also have a program and a membership around it.
Great. And where can we go to find out more about that?
So if you go to walkthetightrope.com, you'll see some information about that. If you're interested in following us, we have now, this is part of our pivot, we have this series called A Step Ahead. So if you go to www.walkthetightrope.com/ASA, you will see our program for A Step Ahead. This is a nice way to plug into us, and this is very open. So these are things you can register for these seminars. They're £50 each. That's a good way to plug into us and sort of get some inspiration during this period. If you're up for the course of the program, which is a bigger investment, then I would say reach out directly on LinkedIn to myself or Elias Westerdahl. And then that is a little bit more of a customized process. But you can find out more information on walkthetightrope.com, and A Step Ahead will allow you to just get a sense of the content and still benefit.
Yeah, great. Next question is, what practical tips do you have for one to identify and observe patterns in the future?
Listening. So, and that's A Step Ahead. When you go to that website, www.walkthetightrope.com/ASA. At the top right of the page, it says click here. And what you'll see is that we are listening. We are spending hours listening to our communities. And that is giving us a huge edge. That has always been part of our edge. So you need to be able to listen to yourself, which is why if you're not in the best place in terms of mental health, you can't. If you have absorbed lots of loss and never processed those feelings, you will be detached from your feelings, your intuition. You will not be able to sense what's coming next. So mindfulness, finding a sense of inner peace is key. It's like in martial arts, sort of a place of stillness, such that you can pick up on what's going to happen next. So, but then also listening externally, tuning in, asking lots of questions, not worrying about whether you agree with people or not, just understanding where are they coming from. We are always looking for audiences that we don't understand. So we have tons of diversity. You see any picture that is a Center for Synchronous Leadership picture of a group of people is always visibly diverse. And that's not an accident, because we're always trying to take in the different views. We have social entrepreneurs who we include as fellows in our organization, including the managing director of the Black Culture Archives. So we're plugged into what's happening in society. We're plugged into young people. We have mentees. And then we have our community of leadership. And this is what we're doing, but you can do a version yourself. Who is it around you in your organization? If they're junior, if they're senior, if they're the secretary, if they're the CEO, it doesn't matter. All of them will see things that you don't see. And it's the combination of those views that will allow you to sense what's coming next.
Okay, great. Last question before how have you been able to use the uncertainty of your journey to your advantage?
Because I never get comfortable. There is no world that was created for me, ever. We've created one that sort of is, I think that's been partly what we've been trying to do, create a world that's connected and that, we sort of fit in. But because of that, we're constantly adapting. You may relate to this if you've ever been looking for jobs. So if you can imagine you're looking for jobs or dating people for relationships, you're in a position where you're constantly facing potential rejection. You're in a position where you're, constantly reflecting on what did I do well there? What could I do better there? Maybe I'll get this, maybe I won't get this. The future is uncertain. People who become really good at that become good at whatever they do after that. So I hope that you're not in a position where you're having, to sort of figure those things out, but the skills that you get from a period of uncertainty and navigating it are what's needed for the best. And I'll give you one more point around that, which relates to diversity. When you look at leaders who are able to lead most effectively, often they have lived in other countries, and this is important. It doesn't mean they have to, but they have something called cultural intelligence. It doesn't have to involve going to another country. But ones who have lived in other countries have had to adapt to a culture very different from their own, where they weren't the norm, and the process of them adapting taught them and gave them muscles and made them listen differently. And that allows them to lead a group of people more effectively. If you have been different, and that's been part of your life story, you will have some of those muscles already, and it's a matter of building and strengthening them.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. Literally ended just on time. If people wanted to reach out to you or find out more, what are your social media handles or anything like that?
Well, I would say the best thing is send a LinkedIn invite, but mention that you saw we get a lot of a lot of invites. But if you say, I saw you at the Accelerate Your Career conference, or via Dennis or Success, mention one of those things, then we'll accept, and then we can begin a conversation. Or you can email at info@synchronousleadership.com. That's SYNCHRONOUS leadership.com, and feel free to get in touch.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your insights, Justine. It was great, and I'm seeing the feedback come through, which is great as well.
Great.